So here we have Pop Goes the Weasel once again, but the music has a different texture here. This is an example of a homophonic texture. And as we said, this is a texture that comes up lots and lots in all kinds of different music, from classical music to pop music to rock music to jazz. Lots of the time there is a very clear melody line and other stuff in the music which helps to support that melody line. And that's definitely what's going on here. So if I grab a different color, I'm going to just go for red, I think. You'll see that just as before, we have our Pop Goes the Weasel melody. It's in a different key, but again, the music is not so important here. And if you don't read the music so easily, that's not a problem. All we're trying to say here is that the music has basically two elements to it. It has the melody, which is the thing that is going up here in this part at the top of the music. And it's got the accompaniment, which is going on in the left hand. Now, what's happening here is because these two lines of music have this squiggly bracket going around it, that's to say that these two lines of melody are to be played at the same time. So we've got to realize that this stuff here, this stuff in this part of the music is happening at the same time as the stuff that's going on here. But on the new line, this is another line. So this is bar 5 down here. So this is bar 1. These two things happen together. This happens together. These two things happen together. Here we go. This is bar 4. And then we get to bar 5. And that's just how this kind of music works. So if we're trying to split our musical texture up into a couple of elements, well, I think the melody is very easy to see. It's everything that's up here in the right-hand part. So if I take my red, I might just make a slightly bigger brush so we can see this more easily. Is that too big? Yes. Right, let's try 5 pixels. Here we go. Right, okay. So from here, I can say that I can draw a line through all of this to say this part of the texture is the melody. And it will be the thing that we recognize as Pop Goes the Weasel. And that's a very important part of this music. In fact, it's probably the part that gives the music its identity. We've always said that when we think of a piece of music, we normally think of its melody, and that's like the fingerprint of the piece of music. So let's have a quick listen to that. So that's exactly the same as when we were looking at an example of monophonic texture, but there is something else going on here, and that's what we've got to look at in the left hand. We'll see that there's some other stuff going on, and what the composer here has done is they've taken some harmonies, they've taken some chords that they want to support this melody, and they've just broken them up a little bit into some different notes. But really what we're seeing here is the adding of harmony to that melody. And the reason that is useful is it just fills out the music. It just gives the music a richer color. And they use the same technique really all the way through. You can see the texture does not change very much. This is a very simple arrangement. You know, this is very straightforward music. It's a nursery rhyme, and so it doesn't need to be complicated. All that's happening is the composer is just adding to the texture by filling out the harmony, and that's what gives the music this homophonic texture. We've got the very, very clear melody line that appears in red, that's the red line going across the top, and the green boxes are the harmonies, all of the stuff that isn't really melody, it's accompaniment, it's harmony, and it helps the melody, but it's not part of the melody. Let's just have a listen to that and get an idea of what one particular type of homophonic texture might sound like. My feeling is that by adding in those extra parts underneath the melody, the composer is able to make what is already a very fun and joyful tune even more fun and enjoyable to listen to. I think that's a really nice accompaniment part to the melody, this kind of lilting, kind of makes me think of an umpar band or something like that. You could imagine hearing an ensemble just like that playing this music. And so there we just have a slightly fuller texture than we had when it was just the melody on its own, and that's really what we're talking about when we talk about homophonic texture. If it turns out that it's a little bit more difficult to decide which of the parts is the melody part and which of the parts is the accompaniment or the harmony part, it might be that we're dealing with some kind of polyphonic texture. So let's go and have a look at what that might mean.